everybody, Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I'm bringing you a deck that has kind of been just appearing all over Nationals and stuff like that, and that is a deck, well, I mean, really centered around Seismitoad EX, but there's a lot of different options, and that is why it has become known as Water Toolbox. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and maybe subscribe. It really helps us out a lot and lets us do more for you guys. Now, like I said, this deck has been termed Water Toolbox, and that is because it really just has options to deal with every type of deck. I mean, you have Seismitoad EX, which is an amazing card in itself with the Quaking Punch Lock. I mean, this deck has great matchups, well, I guess at least favorable matchups against all of the top decks except for, like, I think Vespiquen, Vileplume, but even then it still has means of taking it down. So this is really just kind of like the definition of an anti-meta deck. And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and get right into the cards. I mean, Shaman, nothing anti-meta about this. I mean, Shaman is just kind of the meta card. I mean, setup, really all you need, just draw cards and all that stuff. Aegislash is the first anti-meta poke, and that is for dealing with, I think, what is it? It is dealing with Vespiquen, Vileplume, dealing with Night March, just kind of slow down all those decks that rely on DCE. You really won't be attacking that much with it, but you definitely can, especially because Aegislash has colorless attack cost. I mean, granted, it will be 3 for only 40, but against some of those decks like Aegislash, you just need it there to stall for time and to really just kind of slow them down to the point where they're not able to do much back to you, and you're just able to slowly chip away. And you know what? Slash Blast will even... Actually, you know what? It won't even knock out a Joltik. I forgot that Joltik has that metal resistance. So, I mean, Aegislash is just kind of a great stall tactic and can potentially just be an auto win against some decks like Vespiquen, Vileplume, and Night March if they're not able to get their Hex Maniac going, or if they don't even run Hex Maniac at all. Now, because we are running a ton of EXs, Hoopa is kind of a given in this deck, especially because the main strategy is around Seismitoad. You want to be able to use Hoopa just to get everything out, and granted it does clog up the bench spots, but there are certain pokes that in matchups you just won't need at all. I mean, things like Articuno and Regice and Aegislash you won't use in every single matchup, so having a clogged bench isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. I mean, granted it can be kind of annoying, but you can definitely deal with it, so that is why Hoopa is in there, just to get all of our EXs out onto our bench and just get them ready to go. We're running 2 Articuno. Normally you only see 1 Articuno run in certain types of decks. I found this deck list online, but for the life of me I can't remember where, so if you guys know, please leave a comment in the description below so I can give credit where credit is due. Articuno is phenomenal for, like, the Night March matchup, for, I mean, I guess technically like the early Vespiquen, Vileplume. I mean, this can even, if you get 2 of 3 heads, you can knock out a Vespiquen in 1 turn and turn it into an EX. So I mean, Articuno just really helps with those decks that are focusing on winning the prize trade, and Articuno just turns those low HP guys into Pokemon EX, so you can take advantage of that as well and take a couple more prizes. 2 Manaphy EX just for the Aqua Tube ability. Each of your Pokemon that has any water energy attached to it has no retreat cost. So basically, because we are running so much water energy in the deck, and we are also running some kind of heavy, I guess, retreat costs. I mean, Regice has 3, Seismitoad has 3, Aegislash has 3, Hoopa has 2. I mean, you really... Oops, sorry, moved the screen down a little bit. Let me center that again. Good enough. You really have kind of, like, you have a bunch of Pokemon that are heavy and can be Lysandered around to slow your strategy down. Manaphy is great for just being able to just kind of stop that. Be like, nope, you can't really Lysander anything out just because I have free retreat on everything. So Manaphy is great in this deck, especially when the strategy is centered around Seismitoad and you can just kind of retreat that thing if your opponent Lysanders out to stop, well, attempting to stop the item lock. Regice is great against EXs, and I mean, this deck really just has different cards that are designed to take on certain matchups, which is why it is called Water Toolbox, because it has tools to deal with every single type of strategy. And then, of course, you have the Seismitoad. So, I mean, if you go over the main decks in the format right now, you have Night March. Okay, Seismitoad and Articuno deal with that. You have What is it? Trevenant. Well, Trevenant just has trouble in general with water decks because of Rough Seas pretty much mitigating an entire turn of, what is the attack? I think Silent Fear. Yeah, that's what it's called. Greninja can be a little bit of a problem, but you have Articuno to take out the Froakies and Frogadiers early on, then you have Seismitoad to lock them from items. So, I mean, it really becomes a battle of attrition against those guys, but you definitely do have the advantage. So, I mean, this deck really just has the advantage against a lot of the top decks. I think Dark is the only one that it would potentially have trouble with, but even then, Item Lock is still Item Lock and is still an absolutely phenomenal strategy to run around in. I mean, phenomenal I use in the word, in meaning successful. Item Lock is not fun to play against, I'll be honest, but this deck has had undeniable success, and Item Lock just has undeniable success in the past as well. So, I mean, you really just have to say that Item Lock is a phenomenal strategy to work around. On to the items, we are running 3 Energy Switch, just because, I mean, you have things like Max Elixir and stuff like that, and Energy Switch is great for just being like, well, I don't have an energy in hand, but I have an energy on something else, so just Energy Switch it onto that Pokemon, use Manaphy's Aqua Tube to get them out of the active position, or because we are not running DCEs, you can actually use Energy Switch coupled with Max Elixir to get a first turn Quaking Punch if you go second, which is really, really cool, especially because it ignores Zero Sick because you are only running the regular water energy. So that is just another way that this deck kind of combats the Item Lock strategy from your opponent, like opposing Seismitoad decks or Disruption decks rely on like Enhanced Hammer and stuff like that to get rid of your special energy. Well, if you're running regular energy, you all of a sudden, your opponent can't use the hammers and they can't use Zero Sick to get rid of your energy to prevent the Item Lock. We're also running 4 Max Elixir just to get energy out, get it going, get it kind of moved around into positions that you want it to in order to be able to be in the best position possible to win. 1 Super Rod to get some stuff back in the deck. 3, 4 of Trainer's Mail, Ultra Ball, and VS Seeker. I mean, Trainer's Mail, normally you run 4, but in this deck we needed an extra card, so Trainer's Mail just kind of went. I mean, 3 is still more than enough for consistency's sake, so I mean 3 Trainer's Mail is fine. 4 is usually what you run, but if you need an extra card, you can definitely just get rid of 1 and only run 3. 4 Ultra Ball just to get everything out. You could use Dive Ball, but Ultra Ball just for consistency's sake. I mean, you don't want to need a Hoopa or an Aegislash and only have a Dive Ball, so that's why we're just going for Ultra Ball for the 100% consistency. 4 VS Seeker to reuse all of our supporters. You want to reuse all of them, so you might as well just run 4 of those. 1 AZ, pick up a Hoopa, pick up a Shaman, pick up something that maybe got Lysander that you can't really deal with. I mean, AZ is just great for even just using Shaman to redraw cards. 2 Lysander to, I mean, just really Lysander stuff out. Lysander is an absolutely phenomenal card in this format and is great for just bringing things out and taking care of them if your opponent tries to set them up in the back while you have the Item Lock going. 2-3 of N and Sycamore for the draw support. 1 Zero Sick to disrupt our opponents. Like if they have opposing Item Lock but they have special energy, well, you can just get rid of that. 4 Rough Seas to counter all possible Dimension Valleys. I mean, that helps with the matchups that much more, and Rough Seas is really the means of taking on a couple different matchups. 3 Fighting Fury Belt, don't need to run Muscle Band because everything here is just a basic Pokemon, and then 12 Water Energy to most effectively use things like Max Elixir and always have energy on hand for when you need it. So this deck is really, really cool, and I mean, honestly, is kind of the definition of anti-meta, so I'm intrigued to try it out on the ladder and see what matches we can get. Alrighty, we have found one against Shadowy with a Water and Steel deck, so this should be pretty interesting considering this is more than likely a Greninja deck. We do get to go first, so that is great for us. Maybe we can get an Articuno set up or something like that. And one thing that is also kind of cool that I noticed is that this deck doesn't even show up as a Water deck at the like, I guess, sort of team preview type of thing. So I mean, I just found that kind of neat because your opponent doesn't even know that you're running Water Pokemon per se. He just sees the normal Steel and Psychic plus, so he doesn't know what other type you're running against. So I mean, you really can't get a sense from the very beginning what this deck is running. And okay, we see a Jirachi start, and that is why you gotta love the regular Water Energy, because Stardust won't be able to do much of anything, and we can just heal that right back up with the Rough Seas. And look at this, we are going to get a turn 1 Quaking Punch, well, available. We won't be able to attack, obviously, just because of, you know, the whole not being able to attack first turn thing. And we get another Seismitoad down, and this is just a very, very, very great start for this deck. Really don't need anything from Trainer's Mail. I guess I'll just grab the Rough Seas, because I'm going to N anyway, just to get some more cards and see what else we can get. My opponent has 6, so I mean, it really doesn't help him that much. I mean, it really doesn't help him at all unless he had a really bad hand, but we don't know that. All we know is that we can go with what we're dealing with, and I think I'm going to go ahead and Ultra Ball, get rid of the Rough Seas and the Hoopa. We don't need the Hoopa anymore just because we already have stuff out, and get the Manaphy just so a potential Lysander cannot stop our item lock in. There we go. That was an absolutely phenomenal first turn. I mean, we were able to get a fully powered up, well, relatively fully powered up Seismitoad just with a max elixir and then an energy switch, and my opponent can't even use Stardust to get rid of our energy because, like I said, we're just running regular energy. We have a Manaphy on the bench for Aqua Tube. We have a water energy in our hand if our opponent tries to Lysander to stall. I mean, we really just have everything we could possibly want right now, and guarantee that we're going to get that turn 2 item lock, just potentially keep my opponent from being able to do much of anything at all. And we do see the Froakie on the bench. That's an interesting Froakie. Oh, that's the promo one. Got it. Well, unfortunately, it still has that bubble attack, so that might potentially keep us from being able to do our item lock in. Okay, my opponent gets a Delinquent. Does he not have any other supporters? I mean, I'm fine if they use the Delinquent, just because, I mean, yeah, it gets rid of my cards, but I already have pretty much everything else going. I mean, I will be in top deck mode, but I have a Seismitoad ready to go and ready to attack. I mean, that's, again, it stinks just because, like, I won't have anything going. And alright, get another max elixir. Yeah, I'm just gonna play it, see if I can get an energy onto the Seismitoad, because it's the only thing with a heavy retreat cost, and I could potentially get another Quaking Punch. So yeah, just gonna go for the Quaking Punch right now, lock my opponent from items, and go from there. Even with a 0 card hand, I'm still in the better position right now, just because of that extremely explosive turn 1 with max elixir and energy switch. So I mean, right now you're seeing this against, I guess, one of the more, I guess it is a meta deck. I mean, Greninja Break isn't exactly like the top tier, I don't think, anymore, but it is still very meta. And okay, we just immediately win the game. I'm completely fine with that. That was very short and sweet, and you saw what this deck is designed to do. But let's just go ahead and try to find another one right now. Alrighty, we have found another one against Indigo 2814. And alright, it looks like we are going to be up against another highly meta deck, and it looks like it's Trevenant Break. So I mean, this should be very, very, I mean, relatively easy for us, I would think, just because, I mean, this deck, I think, has the absolute best matchup against Trevenant Break out of all of the different meta decks. I mean, Night March to an extent, but I mean, this deck, I mean, Trevenant Break can't rack up damage because of Rough Seas. Rough Seas can't be locked just because of the, with the item lock. So, I mean, you can just keep doing that, keep healing damage, and yep, 100% Trevenant deck, although this Wobbuffet could be annoying. Luckily, my opponent does not start with it, so what I think I'm going to do, Aegislash will not be useful at all, so I'm just going to grab a Hoopa to, I think grab a couple Seismitoad and a Manaphy, or like a Seismitoad, Shaman Manaphy. Yeah, I think that is my best option, because, I mean, I can just, like, Ultra Ball for another Seismitoad if I want, which will probably be the play. I mean, I'm just going to play these guys down, put that there, Ultra Ball, get rid of the AZ and the Ultra Ball. I could potentially get that later from the Sycamore to grab another Seismitoad, and would you look at that, we immediately have a full bench right off the bat with pretty much everything we could want in this matchup. I mean, Articuno is great for knocking out those low HP Phantoms, and really the only thing I could want more is, I mean, I guess, well, there's a max elixir, so if I get enough energy, I can probably get a Seismitoad powered up turn 1. Well, I mean, there's one, so all we need is, I guess, a water energy and an energy switch, and I can put, well, okay, we even got it. That's awesome. Unfortunately, don't hit anything on the second max elixir. That is just fine with me. I'm going to go ahead and grab that Fighting Fury Belt, play out as many items as possible, put that onto the Seismitoad, put the energy onto the Articuno, retreat that for free because of Manaphy, go into my Seismitoad on the bench, immediately play the energy switch, and would you look at that, once again, we have a turn 1 Quaking Punch ready to go against my opponent. And I mean, I even have the Rough Seas in hand, I have an N for draw support, so I'm just in such a great position now. I mean, even if he gets a turn 1 Wally, not a big deal at all, because, I mean, he won't be able to damage me. I mean, yeah, he won't be able to really damage me unless he gets like some kind of crazy combination of stuff. I'll have Rough Seas to be able to just kind of mitigate all possible damage. And we do see the Bursting Balloon onto the bench, Wobbuffet. That's weird. Okay, we see another Floatstone played onto that Wobbuffet, and then the Wally for the Trevenant. I mean, is that going to be my opponent's turn? I mean, if you told him he would get a turn 1 Wally, then I'm sure my opponent would be like, yeah, that's the ideal start for him as well. But this deck is just so good against that type of matchup. Like, honestly, I don't even have to play anything in my hand. I can just go for the Quaking Punch and slowly whittle away at the Trevenant and the Wobbuffet, which I think honestly is my best choice at this point, because I mean, I'll keep my opponent from doing anything. My opponent has a 1-card hand, and oh, would you look at that, I even get a Lysander that I can go ahead and avoid the Bursting Balloon, and I think that's going to be all I do for this turn. I mean, honestly, this matchup against Trevenant it's very boring, just because, I mean, I'm going to be constantly Quaking Punching as opposed to Grenade Hammering. Grenade Hammering I'm only going to do just to finish off the game, and I'm just warning you ahead of time. Yeah, I mean, this match is going to be very boring, just because all I need to do is just Quaking Punch, slowly whittle away at the Trevenant and the Wobbuffet, and my opponent really won't be able to do much of anything. I mean, he can like retreat into the Wobbuffet, and see, yeah, this is going to be a very boring match, especially because I don't want to play my Rough Seas yet, just because I don't have to, and I'm going to take the first prize after my opponent just has to draw pass a couple times. So I mean, I even get items for next turn if I want, so this is exactly what this deck is supposed to do against the Trevenant deck. I mean, granted, I haven't really been able to show off the whatchamacallit, I guess the healing part yet, but I'm sure I'll be able to show that in the future, especially if I have to go for a Grenade Hammer to one-shot a Trevenant. But I think at this point, Quaking Punch is just my best play. I mean, continuously going for that, locking my opponent from items. He clearly has nothing going at all, and look, there you go, I even get a Fighting Fury belt because I got the item lock now. Could get a Manaphy and Aegislash back in my deck. Do I want to do that? Nah, I think I'll just thin my deck a little bit. That way when I have to end, I can get something effective, and yeah, I'll just grab a Seismitoad. Really does not matter what I grab at all. And again, I'm holding off on playing the Rough Seas just because I don't need to yet. I want to wait for my opponent to play Dimension Valley so I can counter that and win the Stadium War with my Rough Seas. And I mean, if I play Rough Seas and my opponent hasn't damaged me yet, then that's a complete waste of a Rough Seas. Alright, my opponent just falls and passes. Like, that's exactly what is supposed to happen right now, and I'm even getting items, so yeah, I'll just grab a VS Seeker. Why the heck not? Just like maybe grab a Lysander or AZ or something. In fact, I actually think I'm going to go for the Lysander because I need to get this Trevenant out of the way. I mean, Trevenant is the absolute only way my opponent can do anything in this matchup. I mean, Wobbuffet will do 10 damage, then I'll heal all that off. I mean, Trevenant is the only way my opponent has any chance of doing anything, and I just want to eliminate every single possibility. And while this is easily one of the most boring matches I have ever played, it's not item lock against item lock, I don't care because I'm in just such a great position that I can just draw, Quaking Punch, and end my turn. Like, I don't have to do anything right now, and even though like N won't be as effective later, for the time being, like it's all I need. I don't need anything else right now, and I could potentially be like powering up a Seismitoad and Articuno in the background, which wouldn't necessarily be a bad play, but I mean, well, there, I draw an energy. But for the time being, I don't need to do anything except for just continually Quaking Punch. I want to save my Rough Seas for when I need them, and I like my hand. I have potential draw support, I have an N, oh, there's even a Zero Sick that I can get rid of, like the Mystery Energy or a Floatstone or a Bursting Balloon. So I mean, I could definitely be playing down my hand a little bit to get more stuff powered up in the background, but I don't need to. That's the thing. So just going to go ahead and zero sig, get that energy away. And they want a VS Seeker, get something in my hand. I don't think I need to just because my opponent doesn't have a Trevenant in play. I thought about it, but I mean, I like to keep my options open. So unless my opponent gets a an A's, I guess he can't possibly get a Trevenant this turn. I mean, okay, well there's the end. So I'm glad I mean, I guess I'm not necessarily like super glad that I sat on my hand, but I mean, I didn't need to do anything. That was the thing. I wanted to keep my resources for when I needed it, and look at that. I just draw another Rough Seas and a couple energies. So that's really all I need to do. I can power up another Seismitoad in the background. If my opponent tries to Lysander or something, I have water energy available, and there you go. I even get more water energy, so I'll be able to take a knockout on this Wobbuffet. And I mean, we've taken 3 knockouts with, I mean, 9 Quaking Punches. I mean, it's boring, but in these type of matchups, that's what you have to do to win. I mean, I'm in such a dominant position that my opponent cannot do anything at all. So I'm just going with it. And okay, I guess he'll be able to Psychic Assault for 10 damage, but I mean, I win at this point because I can just go for the Grenade Hammer. So I'll just play an energy down, go for a Rough Seas, just like, you know, salt in the wound, and then show off Seismitoad's other attack, the Grenade Hammer, damage the Seismitoad, and the Manaphy doesn't matter at all, knock out the Wobbuffet for the win. So I mean, I won. It was very, very boring, very kind of stallish, just because, I mean, that's the nature of this deck in this matchup. I mean, I did what I had to win, and I came out winning in a very dominant fashion. So this is a very fun deck to try out, very anti-meta, has pretty good matchups against all of the tier 1 decks right now. So go try it out. I encourage you to have fun with it, and I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. And this is Styx, signing out. Why not? See you guys.